Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Over the last 40 years, women have made breakthroughs in what were considered exclusively male preserves. It hasn't always been easy.
I think it's not for the being a woman, it's depend on the performance of a lawyer. Being a lawyer, I don't find any difficulties.
But as the lady, that is just the age long that mental what should I say, the mental dependence upon the others and not to bring up themselves on their own. That is what they come to this big field where the performance, as just have been said by my friend, it is a very vital point.
I have a son and it is very difficult to manage family life and also my legal profession. But I am trying my level best to satisfy my family members and as well as my clients. And I think they are not unhappy.
Durba Banerjee, a lady who has kept her colors flying. In 1966, she became the first woman turbojet flyer of a scheduled airline, thereby breaking a world convention.
From the childhood, I had a mind of doing some extraordinary work. So when I got the scholarship of Bihar Flying Club, so I immediately joined as a pilot. And then I come to know that there is a world convention that ladies will not be taken in the scheduled airline. And I started getting obstruction. I became adamant to join as a line pilot.
In May 1987, she reached yet another landmark in her career. She became the first woman pilot of an Airbus and became the first woman in the world to be so. According to pilot Banerjee, more and more women are actually becoming air pilots. Dr. Mrs. Bharuti Ray, another woman achiever. In 1988, she became the first woman to become Calcutta University's Pro-Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. Calcutta University is the oldest institution of higher learning in India and began admitting women in 1878. We asked Dr. Ray about the reason for there not being a woman at the top of the academic hierarchy in the last 132 years.
Actually, it is a very responsible job and quite an onerous one. And I'm the first woman to be appointed the Pro-Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs in 132 years of this university's history. But I'm not prepared to believe that I'm the most competent woman born this side of India during this period, 132 years. There must have been competent women. There must have been women who could have proved equally, if not more competent, given the opportunity. Now the question is that in pre-independence India, one realizes that there are constraints. But how about this 40-year history, 40 years of independent India? Frankly, I feel that in a male-dominated society such as ours, there is resistance to women's public power. And women are never the first choice for a high post, however competent they may be. But fortunately, I think, hopefully, the wind is changing, and my job, present job, is indicative of this change. And it's a very welcome new breeze for women as a whole.
Here are some more women effectively performing in traditionally male occupations. We find sexual discrimination among employers is on its way out.
I don't think women are being discriminated against in journalism, because in our batch, 5 people were taken, among which 4 were girls. Even in the previous batch, among 5 people who were taken as apprentice journalists, 4 were girls. And I also think that we are given equal facilities and equal opportunities with the boys here.
I feel that journalism is a field in which women, if given a chance, can do very well.
I am doing here hardware maintenance of computer controlled machines.
We are doing computer, we are basically keying in what the journalists send us.
Justice Podda Khastagir, again an eminent woman of the judicial world, reveals.
We Indian women are very proud of our proud heritage and the hoary past. In the Vedic age, women had exalted position. They shared the same wisdom, learning, and equal status with men. At present, the Constitution enshrines justice, equality, fraternity to all men and women. Apart from that, we have the guarantee of equal treatment in the eyes of law. Constitution further guarantees that no discrimination could be made on the ground of sex. Of course, it's true that no discrimination can be made on the ground of sex, but the state can always make laws, especially for the protection of the interests and the rights of women. The Constitution further provides, under the fundamental rights, all the rights which men can exercise and enjoy. Women have equal rights to enforce their fundamental rights. Similarly, under the directive principles of state policy, the Constitution directs that women, children should be given adequate means of livelihood. Their age, their strength should not be misused. Over and above that, we are very proud because of the fundamental duties that have been provided under Article 51 of the Constitution that protects the dignity and honor of women.
Working women seem to invariably carry the primary responsibility for running their households, despite having full-time jobs outside.
Smile. Smile বানানো হয়নি। Smile.
Just see, I do all the housework here, before and after my office. I have very little time. I have to manage everything before I go to office.
কারণ সকালবেলা অল্প সময়ের মধ্যে ঘুম থেকে উঠে ঘরদোর গোছানো, রান্নাবাড়া করা,
I cook,
মেয়েদের
clean,
লেখাপড়া করা, তাদের
look after children,
স্কুলে পাঠানো,
my husband,
রান্নাবাড়া সেরে স্বামীর
and
কাজে সাহায্য করা,
I look after myself and get ready.
প্রস্তুতি দরকার আছে, এই সমস্তগুলো তো করতেই হয়।
One has to make a lot of adjustments between work and home. You have to try because you have a lot of pressure at work which you may have to carry home, but once you reach home, playing the role of a housewife, mother, is as important as working. So I suppose there is a certain lot of compromises that have to be made by both the man of the house and the woman.
Yes, it's a truism to say that for working women, it is very difficult because they have to share the double burden of work and home. Even today, all over the world, home is still considered women's primary responsibility. I feel personally that all women should educate their sons as much as their daughters in domestic duties, so that when the next generation comes up, we have a new breed of men trained in domestic work and prepared to tackle domestic problems. Indian culture as yet doesn't encourage men to do domestic chores.
And if both men and women from a very young age can be made to think that it is the same position that they will ultimately be holding in the society, and it will be the same responsibility that they will be sharing, and they will be working together in the progress of the society, then I think the status of women will perhaps go for a more happier change.
On the other hand, we find a significant majority of rural women coming daily to work in our urban metros as unskilled domestic and industrial laborers. They are overworked and underpaid, but their feelings are otherwise. 110 rupees per month. I do all the work from 7 a.m. till about 2:30 p.m. I get 120 rupees per month. I have 5 sons. I don't have a husband. Without work, I have no alternative. Some women rely on domestic labor to ease their household burdens. But how, in fact, do women domestic workers cope with their own burdens? I earn about 40 rupees in one household for washing and cleaning duties, and 100 rupees for all the work in another household. That's washing, cleaning, and cooking.
যখন যা টাইম হয় আর কি তখন সমস্ত আমাকে করতে হয় ওখানে আমি 125 টাকা মাইনে পাই আর আরেকবার
My youngest daughter gets 100 rupees for all the work in a household.
এরকম করে আর আমার স্বামী
My husband, who's about 50 or 60 years old, works sporadically.
সেই কাজই করে
Even after working as hard as they do, their sons are reared in a more privileged manner than their daughters.
না পড়াশোনা তো করতে পারবে না কেন
My daughter can't go to school. We are poor and she is needed for household work. And she needs the money for her personal maintenance.
তাই জন্য আমরা এই করে শিক্ষাতে এখন টাকা পয়সা পাইনি আর পড়াশোনা করাতে পারি
Her views on her son's education are different.
ছেলে পড়েছে কিছুটা
My son has studied till class 9.
Because of the low status that is given to the girl child, in fact from the time a girl child is born, she is not looked upon as a contributor to the family economy. and her educational role is not given much importance by her own family. Here, the boy, as opposed to her brother, the boy is given every opportunity to develop his full potential. He is given the education background, he is given the training skills. The family deprive themselves in every way to give the support to the boy to become economically independent. And here the girl is merely looked upon as a girl who will go to another family. She has to be married, a dowry has to be paid for her, so she is almost a burden, considered a burden to the family economy.
We are finding women coming out of their shells, they're coming out, confronting the reality, but their understanding, their education, very often they find it difficult to confront this reality because they have an innate problem inside. It's the value system, I think.
The most common problem, of course, is poverty. But coupled with poverty, actually what makes poverty most unbearable is discrimination. That is, at this level of community, men are not up to the standard. Some gamble, some drink, some take to drugs, some beat their wives.
He drinks and takes drugs. I am Koruna Gayan. I work. I maintain the family. My husband does no work. Who bothers for my suffering? I feed 4 children. As my husband is invalid, he cannot work.
দিয়েছি জবা দিয়েছি আপনার 6টা মালা 5টা 40 পয়সা কইরা না অর্চনা সাহা
I am Orchana Shaha.
আর একটা মালা 1 টাকা এখানে দেখছি তুমি ফুল বিক্রি করছো হ্যাঁ
I sell flowers. And with the money I get, I pay house rent, feed and clothe the children, and run my home. One of my boys studies. The other boy here is retarded. Previously I used to sew clothes, but the money was insufficient, so I started this business.
So women have to bear all this, plus very often the men don't earn and they have to become the breadwinners of the family as well.
Although women represent 50% of the world's population and 1/3 of the official labor force, they perform 2/3 of all working hours, receive only 1/10 of the world's income, and own less than 1% of world property. Paradoxically, industrial development adversely affects a large number of women. The reasons are best analyzed by Vidya Munshi, eminent trade union leader.
The great majority of women have no option as to where they can work. 75% of our women are illiterate, were illiterate in the 1981 census. Because of their very low level of education, because of their illiteracy, and because they're totally unskilled, because there are no avenues of training open to them at that level of illiteracy, they are bound to go to such work which is hard, arduous, but extremely low paid and unskilled. The modernization in industry also has the same effect on women. there were certain industries which were traditionally considered as women's employment fields. Textile was one, mining was another. In all these, tobacco industry was another one. In all these, as soon as some new technology is introduced, the women are considered unfit to learn to use the new machines. There have been cases in the tobacco industry, in Guntur and roundabout Guntur, for instance, in Hyderabad also, where women were offered the option of nominating one male member from their family to take their place, but they would not be employed, retrained for the job. Women's organizations have been demanding that a woman, if she is to be thrown out because of change in technology, then she should be either retrained to use the new machines or an alternate job must be found for her before she can be retrenched. But that is still a far cry.
While larger numbers of women are coming out to work, men continue to occupy the key positions. Recent employment data indicate that a large number of women were estimated to be unemployed as compared to that of men. A large number of women are forced to seek work in what is described as the informal sector or unorganized sector. 89% of women workers fall into this category, providing essential services and making crucial contributions to the economy, but remaining largely invisible as workers. A recent report by the National Commission on Self-Employed Women and Women in the Informal Sector has found that in 40 to 50% of rural families, women were the major wage earners. The report also found that average earnings in this sector can be as low as ₹4 a day, which is far below the legal minimum wage. What factors underlie such trends?
Firstly, there is no job security, no legal protection of right to work in the unorganized sector. In fact, no laws apply to the unorganized sector. So, with such wide-scale unemployment, if one woman insists on her rights, then there will be 1,000 others waiting for the job. She can be thrown out any day. There is no job protection. There is no legal protection for her permanency. That is why women who are among the lowest income brackets, for whom their job is necessary for their survival, cannot afford to join a union. Secondly, they have no spare time. They do the work in their homes. Childcare facilities are practically non-existent. And on top of a full-time job in the home, they have to do a full-time job outside where there are no regulation of work hours. In the unorganized sector, if orders are available, the employer expects them to work 12 hours a day. If no order is available, it is no work, no pay.
The woman's struggle for survival continues in her home.
সারা পৃথিবীতে দুনিয়াটাই তো এরকম হয়েছে না যে টাকা না দিলে মেয়ের বিয়েই হবে না
If I don't give dowry, my daughter won't be married.
যে মেয়ে দেখেই পছন্দ
They came to see my daughter and approved her as a bride.
ছেলে বলল যে বিয়ে করব
The boy agreed to marry, but I must give him a watch, a cycle, and I must give my daughter gold ornaments as specified by the boy. My older daughter was married 6 years ago. I spent 8,000 rupees for her. Her husband is no good. She has had 2 daughters, and that is why she is no longer liked.
As you know, there's a spate of this dowry deaths in our country on account of non-payment of the dowries. The women are subjected to both physical and mental cruelty. There are cases where they are done away with the life. By that I mean that murders are committed. Even there are cases where they are forced to commit suicide. The near relations of the husband or the husband himself and aiding and abetting, and or because of the mental and physical cruelty they are forced to commit suicide. Those number of cases are coming before us, and we are trying to deal with them in accordance with law and give the severest punishment. But the fact remains, unless we can really make the women aware of their rights and we can make them aware of the laws.
However, we have found from our experience that laws cannot bring about social justice for women.
How the social awareness can be brought?
Here women have to be established, her status has to be established in society through making her educated, through giving her proper education, giving her all the facilities she needs like training, income generation facilities. She has to have various support services such as working women's hostel and daycare centers for children, creche, and short stay homes where she is being victimized before marriage or after marriage, which is more common. And these support services, and if she becomes an economically independent, self-reliant person, then probably the society will give her some status. However, it is a matter of creating awareness.
Awareness for women, yes, and conscious awareness among our policymakers, our educators, our peers, and our own families. Otherwise, progress will be meaningless.